So the next one which we have done is which is something like deviations, because today in most of this particular QMS systems, you use a kind, whenever you are entering a deviation, you always say that like there is a checkpoint which you are going to do it. Is there any similar deviation? So now manually the user is selecting which is a similar deviation, so that he is linking this deviation with a similar deviation, right? So this is a little bit advanced than this, that the deviation is going to be whenever the user is entering the deviation, algorithm checks how this particular deviation related to the existing current deviations available in the system. It pre-populates the data. So now in this one, it collects the data. It collects the data from all your historical data, because most of the companies are having like QMS systems, LMS systems, and the DMS system. That's the reason our focus mainly towards this, which this AI immediately can be implemented. So here you have a volumes of records of these CAPAs and the deviations, right, available in your current systems. We need to clean this particular data, right? How it's going to clean it also, which we can discuss. So now validating this particular data and refining this particular data, and the context understanding, that's the way the AI models are going to play a big role. Then after that, finally the recommendation generation. So this is what is the simplistic approach of that entire cycle is going to be there, right? Now coming to this, what we are trying to do is, whenever the user is trying to enter a deviation, automatically every deviation is going to have a root causing. Then after that, you are going to do the next is a CAPA. All these particular things, if there is a similar, typically the deviations will be repetitive, right? So and again, AI need to give a suggestions to avoid these particular repetitive things. But otherwise, AI is going to help you in terms of exact matching of, more or exact matching of this particular deviation, so that that we can able to minimize the time for the deviation closure. Now coming to this, so this is what is like, this is when a user is entering the deviation title, right? Now he entered a deviation title. Now just click on this. Now it gives you all the recommended deviations, right? When you look at this recommended deviations, right, and you also get this deviation and also the what is an RPN score of this particular thing, and all these things will come. Now the sequence of these deviations will be coming based on the exact matching with the given description by the end user, right? So what we are trying to do it, the AI recommendation engine is going to give you that. First step is been it gives you the recommendation. Now the user enters the details. Then after that, even the review comments also going to come as a part of AI recommendation. And also all the master data, all the kind of the required fields will be pre-populated for the next set of activity also. So what happens? Now I entered my deviation. I used an AI recommendation. Now AI recommendation allows me to pre-populate the remaining fields for that user. Now the user will select, is this particular information is right or not. Now he will submit it. Now when the user corrects this particular the information, now that your AI tool is going to be trained again. The model will get trained. Okay, this recommendation is being given. Know that the data may not be clean. Now we can able to correct this particular data. So that's where continuously training the model. So that's where we can able to improvise the quality of your AI recommendations. So this is what these are all the things which is going to be suggested, and that this is a where that you can able to see it from a CAPAs, and the same thing can be applied even for the change control or for the that the deviations and the CAPAs. But there is a one more catch here, if you are looking at a OOS. Now I wanted to do a kind of that the OOS, applying a recommendation for a OOS. Now the question comes in. Now the OOS again linked with your LIMS, right? Now provided the LIMS data also, if I train it, then that's where I can able to get the right that output for the OOS scenarios also. So this is the way that you can see that when you see it on screen, you can see all these even the action plans and all these things can able to suggest certain things. And there are certain things when there is no action plan, it doesn't populate any action plan. Now I need to do that action plan by myself. So this is the way, right, that one, it is not about that I selected deviation for the first time as a recommendation. Now I selected that first step, I used a deviation, enter deviation as per the recommendation. Now in the second step, it automatically collects the first step of information, entire information. Then it goes and checks the again the model checks it and gives you the recommendations based on the previous all that data provided at each workflow level. So that's the beauty of this particular thing. So what happens? It's not in typically what in the current state we use similar deviations, but here what happens? It continuously looks into the data again and again based on once the user submits. In this way, we can able to clean our data and we can able to make our deviations and the CAPAs or the kind of change controls most effective, right? In terms of AI recommendation. So next is that the same applies to the typical change control also. So now with the AI, we can able to that the minimize certain tasks. I can able to minimize the highlighted ones, right? So you can able to minimize the rejections, right? And you can able to minimize this impacted areas, right? So this is what is the way that what AI can able to do it for deviations and CAPAs. The same way change controls also, you can minimize certain tasks, which can be, suppose for example, rejections. Typically that the rejections happens when there is an existing change controls are been running it. So it tells you there is a change control has been running, why do you need to create one more change control, right? So this is the way that AI can able to do certain tasks. And when you look at an effectiveness check also, effectiveness check is also can be monitored, because today we manually monitor that. Effectiveness check can be monitored by an AI, because it's when there is a deviations are been coming into the system, because again it is a part of a QMS system, it is being connected, we can able to make these kind of effectiveness checks and all these things during course of time will be automated, right? So the next one is agentic, that AI report builder. What is this agentic AI? That's what which I was been giving a overview on that. This agentic AI report builder, what it does is today, if you wanted to generate any kind of the report, right, or analytics, if you wanted to generate, if you are doing a QRM meeting, in the QRM meeting, you have a certain set of standard data, you are reviewing it. Now you don't want it to do the standard this thing, and you dynamically wanted some kind of that the analytics automatically to come in. So that's where is the industry is moving on, because today's problem may not be tomorrow's problem. So that's where what this agentic one AI builder, what it does dynamically, I can create a analytics to a specific problem. Today, my biggest problem is that my overdue CAPAs is the biggest challenge, and OAS are the biggest challenge. Now I can able to do all these things with this this particular that agentic AI builder. So it is a quite simple that you can connect to any database, right? Whatever is the database which you have, whether you are using a QMS, DMS, LMS, all these applications on one platform or different platforms. So you can connect this particular the builder to the database. Then there is a schema agent. Now, how is the database schema? It understands this particular database schema, right? And then the query agent, which translates this particular your natural language into the, so once you are typing in something, it able to convert into the SQL queries. And the chat generation agent, it generates this particular chats by itself. And the output delivers an automated and data-driven reports. So this what is which that agentic AI report builder does. Now coming to this, it connects directly to the organizational database. Now you have a database. Now you want it to, because it's a report builder. AmpleLogic has been done it on with some kind of that research and effort. But the same way, you have a multiple report builders have been available. You can take any one of the report builder and try to start using it by yourself, right? So that's where you can, but the report builder takes some time to get its own maturity, and depending on the multiple databases, that the multiple database schemas and different kind of, the complexity of the data, right? Based on that, it's going to change, right? So then it's the complexity of the data is more, then the model need to be trained on, right? And so this is a way that your model is going to gets its maturity. But otherwise, this is the kind of that it can connect to the any databases, and you can comprehend the database schemas like with the specialized AI agents, and transforms the natural language queries into the efficient this one, and generates a bar line, bar chart. You see whatever the charts, because you may start with 4 or 5 charts initially, and the chart components. For example, you may want to start with the pie charts, bar charts, line charts. So whatever is the recommendations which you wanted to start with a small and gradually move on to the kind of complex like chart components. Right. Supports this data-driven decision making. So not only this thing, and gradually you can move on to the certain kind of now this particular component is been giving me this is the challenge with this. Right. Now I can define some kind of that actions into the some of my QMS modules from this report builder. So that's the beauty of that's where this is an agentic AI thing is really going to help you to a great extent. So now, when you look at this is a typical that the video of the report builder. Now how it looks like, now I am going to make a connection to the database, right? So which database that whatever the database, if I am connecting now to the QMS database, just I need to give this database credentials here, right? And now once I tested, my database got connected. I have a multiple databases, then I use a multiple database connections. It's not a single database. I can connect to the multiple database and I can apply a natural language on top of it. So I'm giving the name of the report builder. That's the quality matrix is my report of it. Now I start typing it what do you want? Now I'm asking my chatbot saying give me the total number of change controls by department wise. So that's something which is that gave a report, right? It picks up I can suggest this. I want the chart. This is supposed to be that bar chart. It tells you that. Now I wanted to define a KPIs that what is the total change control. Ideally, it's not total change control. So typically, when you look at that overdue CAPAs. So that's the next one which this the overdue CAPAs is something we are talking about. Right. So you can create, and you can also define you see once when the complexity increases. Now, for example, for your QRM, what you have it rate of deviations, rate of OOS, rate of what has been happening here, right? So this is a typical depending on your QRM need, right? So whatever your the review meetings, what you do based on that, you can define for every review meeting, you can create all these things in one particular that is component. And if you want that to be triggered in email, it can trigger an email on a weekly basis. So this is what is the report builder that is going to give you the advantage of creating dynamically the analytics. So even when you are doing a QRM meeting, suddenly you wanted to get into the more data specific to you something, and you can able to create then and there itself. So this is what is going to help the organization in terms of addressing the inefficiencies immediately. Right?